Yeah. Happy Thursday, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Change the Lives, hosted by yours truly, Deonte Burden. Hey, listen, guys. The funny thing about tonight's show, let me say the funny thing about it. I usually plan the shows, somewhat like a month out. And the show tonight, guys know we're talking about how to think and not just react. Critical thinking for Black men. Last week we had a situation in the city of Cincinnati, Ohio, where a young man was killed by police. Young man, they say allegedly they responded to an auto theft. He had a gun on him. Police shot and killed him. They were speaking with his father at the police precinct, showing the body cam videos. The father leaves and runs over a police officer at the intersection, directing traffic. That was it Rodney Hinton Jr., the father?
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted to think about, like I said, it's just coincidentally everything's falling into place like this. What I want to just share with you guys, because I do a lot of mentoring of young men, way outside of my father. I mean, my children were doing it. But this show is a direct reflection of that. When we start talking about how to think, not just react, critical thinking, far too often, there are situations that go on in our lives. And again, it's a critical thing for Black men. I think all men need it. But 99% of the young men that I mentor are Black men. People thinking and think first. I mean, move first and think later. And unfortunately, when you make decisions like that, you can't recover from them. One thing about it, when you start talking to people that are incarcerated or have been, you find out quick they ain't, a lot of them ain't bad people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad decision.
One bad decision.
You didn't let the fight. You didn't let the fight go. What's going on, brother Sean? What's happening? Thanks for tuning in, brother. I had too much. I had I got in my car. I had a couple drinks at the party. Got in my car. Didn't mean to run the light. Hit somebody. The person that died. Boom.
Right.
Me and the guy got to arguing. He pushed me. I pushed him. He fell. Hit his head. Boom. Got manslaughter.
Right.
And what I want to always tell people, because far too often, folks, people think that you always got to respond. You always got to respond. And many times that's not the case. That's not necessarily the case, because when you start looking at it in regards to just say true power of yourself and true control of yourself, you have it when you have your mind. Not necessarily when you can sit here and just impose and do certain things to certain people.
Right.
It's funny right now, to be totally honest with you. I'd be full transparent. Again, night show, we're talking about how to think, not just react, critical thing for Black men. I got a situation right now going on with my class, my class reunion.
Right.
Sat down and done certain things. I've had a lot of different instances with somebody saying this and saying that. I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that. Do I get bothered if someone says something about me that's not true? Absolutely.
Right.
But at the end of the day, me thinking, what's that gonna solve?
Right. Getting all upset and angry about
it. If
it.
someone looks a certain way, acts a certain way, and then Poochie responds the same way,
then they gonna respond.
Well, I'm saying, who look crazy?
Right.
I can't do that. And I my thing is I always be focused on, and I'm just, I always share this with people. When you're focused on what you need to do and where you need to be, the other stuff, you don't worry about it. You understand what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. I understand the critical thinking, read 10 times before you react, before you say something you don't mean. But I think sometimes we forget that, especially Black men, we deal with so much in a day. This as a Black man. We deal with, so when we walk out the door, we deal with a lot of things within a day. And sometimes all that weight, pressure breaks pipes. And you don't know what a person is going through in a day. You don't know what a person might be dealing with that day. And then here come the class reunion crap. And then you just go out, and you don't mean to, but that's just the straw. You get what I'm saying?
But at the end of the day, I got to deal with the ramifications of me snapping.
Right.
And at the end of the day, so no one cares. I had a rough day. I had this, that, and that. What's done. And I got to deal with that. Let me see. We got Jenkins Law Firm. As a law firm, we see the fallout of reactions. Much greater strength is needed to refrain from reacting. Appreciate that, brother. Um, and to your point, black men, we have to just to understand restraint. I never tell nobody let nobody disrespect you.
Right.
Definitely don't say, let somebody touch you, abuse you, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, man, listen, if that stuff, it may bother you, but it's not necessarily throwing stuff off of. Come on now. We got to be smart in that. I get it.
Right.
But, I mean, it ain't as simple as the sticks and stone would break the bone work. But at the end of the day, you can sit there and react, and you can hurt yourself much worse than the words that are said. So right now, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a great show, guys. I want you guys to make sure you still comment in the chat. Want to call in? Feel free to call in. The call in number 678-740-9894. Gets to change the live, hosted by yours truly, Deonte Burden. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Twitter. Get started. So what's up? I know I'm a little late with my house producer, DJ Lab.
What's going on, brother?
What's happening?
We're gonna have a good conversation today.
Absolutely.
On Thursday, the best day of the week, right?
Absolutely.
Most definitely.
What's up to my other producer, Slick 316? What's up, Reed?
What's going on, Slick?
But hey, listen, when we having these conversations again, how to think, not just react. Critical thing for black men. We ask ourselves, why did this conversation even matter? Because again, I just coincidentally, what happened in Cincinnati? There's instances like that where what the young folks call it crashing out. And when I even looked in the chat, I'm looking on social media because I always try to get intel, stuff we talk about even with on the show. I'm seeing all these men, good father, damn good guy, and that's I would have did it too. Free the brother. And I asked, this is in a Facebook group. I asked the question. Nobody answered. Who's going to take care of his family, his children while he's locked up?
Right.
Crickets.
Right.
A young lady responded, my family is going to stand in for mine. All those men that sat there and said, free to do, I would have did it too, great father. When I asked that question, who's going to take care of his children?
Right.
Who's going to take care of his family while he's locked up?
Right.
None of them had anything to say. A young lady said that. Now, I'm not trying to get sexist or anything like that. A lot of times, we know women might be a little bit more impulsive. You don't expect the man to be a little logical. I'm not trying to sound sexist or anything like that. Just give my point of view.
I think, but those reactions, like you said, those reactions to what happened are a culmination of a lot of things that happen. I'm giving you a good example of why people are saying what they're saying. It's not to be. It's not a. The cops who killed Tyree Nichol, they just got acquitted yesterday. Total acquitted, and they had video showing these people.
I think the Fed charge. I think they still got state charge.
I think they already talking about partnering that.
Well, they ain't did it. They still got.
But I'm just saying though. But those things right there are one of those things that sometimes make you crash. I mean, like there's literal video of them holding him down, kicking him, hitting him with batons, and they still get off scot-free. So it's like, what do we do?
Not get your ass in jail.
Man, sometimes.
Sometimes. Because here's the deal. That's the thing about it. You want to know why a lot of them guys come respond to that? Because more likely they ain't taking care of theirs.
Or they don't know.
No, you damn know. At the end of the day, if you got responsibility, I got children. I cannot put myself in a situation by choice.
Right.
By choice to be where I can't take care of my children. You can't. And so you sit there and do certain things like that because I may have gave a little bit more of an exception if he killed the officer that killed his son.
Okay.
He just went and killed somebody.
Unalive, but yeah.
I mean, but I'm sitting here like,
right.
We got to be able to process all the time, Lamb. What's one of the biggest things on you looking on social media? Person owned the cop. This person owned this person at the government building. And you see a person roll down the window. I never been as lucky, and but you see the instances where police pull them over. Why you pull me over? Gotta get your license or whatever. If the officer is rude, wrong, or whatever, and everything, why you want to do this? I know my rights. Now again, I got my brother. Sean Jenkins Law Firms, one of my high school teammates, good brother.
Okay.
Attorney at law right now. Now, you sit there and say to yourself, now, I know what I know with my line of public school education and my finance stuff. I am not an attorney.
Right.
With that said, a lot of times people say, I know my quote-unquote rights, right?
Right.
Some arguments You just don't need to have on the side of the road. I don't think, listen to what I'm about to say, Lab. Listen to what I'm about to say. When we talk about thinking before we react. I don't think me having an argument about somebody if I got to get my damn driver's license is worth it. Because now we sit there and say, well, I'm not going to do this. I can sue you. But we know most people are what? Not in the capacity to sue anyone. So listen, I didn't want to give you my driver's license. We back and forth arguing. You locked me up. My car gets impounded. I've lost my car. Now I got to get out of jail, call work that I got to really be at.
Right.
Get my car impounded. They done set 2 or 3 days. That might be $200 or $300. Then I got to turn around and figure out what's going on, pay these fees, get out. And then if I say then I got to find an attorney because most people don't have an attorney.
Right. Nobody has.
If you find out very quickly, that may be a 6 month to a year process to get the report and a lawsuit in. If you find a lawyer to take it.
Right.
You got to be smart. You done lost money, may lose your damn job. You know, all this other stuff didn't happen. Because, hey, man, listen, because you can go the next day, and put a complaint in with the officer.
You know them complaints don't go nowhere.
Yeah, but
when you go put a complaint in at the police station with an officer about an officer that the officer throws your complaint in the trash. You know that happens.
Okay, so what the hell gonna happen when I get locked up?
I'm just saying though, you got to play devil. I get what you're saying.
No, we got to
play devil advocate to this because sometimes things happen. Like I said, how many times? Because we know they treat others better. So why you treat me like this when I really didn't even do anything?
Listen, Lab, at the end of the day, it's not about accepting getting mistreated. It's about handling the situation. Where we can't win an argument on the side of the road. I told him something, and then your ass got locked up.
It's the principle of the thing. It's principalities to this. I'm just messing with you.
DJ Lamb. Man, look here, Lamb. We try to prevent these brothers from crashing, not getting their
and I understand that, but I'm telling you, sometimes it might not even be
feelings. Hey, you
know, brother, when we walk out the door, we don't automatically go to crash out. None of us does that. None of us says that. Even when we're having the conversation on the side of the road, the conversation don't start out as we finna get locked up. The reason why we ask questions is so we can so we can have those questions answered. But that may have been the 7th time this officer has stopped me going down this road today, and I ain't did nothing.
Lab, but you still can't listen. I get the emotion part, but that's the problem.
And that's what happens.
But that's the problem. Your emotions get the best of you and put you in that situation. You got to think logically. Because at the end of the day, once you get locked up and all this other anything can happen, you messed up. And you I proved the point and said, thanks for calling Change Your Lives. Thanks for calling Change Your Lives. Who am I speaking with?
Man, this brother LaShawn Jenkins, what you up to, man?
What's up, Sean? What's going on?
Man, I'm listening to the conversation. I just figured I better call in.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. I need an attorney in law. I need a real lawyer. I don't need a interstate or side of the road lawyer. What's going on, bro? What you got to add to the conversation?
Yeah, man. I think what you and your boy are saying, you both got valid points. I like this all of considering both sides of everything. I agree with you, Pooch, that if you're on the side of the road and you get pulled over, I mean, the way I was taught is first and foremost, you got to respect authority, okay? And a lot of the problems can be taken care of by you, number one, just respecting authority. Now, granted, that man might not have had a justified reason to pull you over. I've been in that situation before, and I'm a lawyer. But guess what? I sometimes keep my mouth shut because I learned earlier on my mouth can get me in a lot of trouble. So I let him do the talking, and I wait, and then I ask the question when it's time, and I stay calm. I don't act all scared. I don't put both of my hands on the steering wheel and act like I'm already in the wrong, because I'm not, you know? And so I let the man explain to me why he pulled me over, and then I let him know, okay, and then I give him my license and my registration, and he does what he has to do. I mean, it's been very few times, even when I've been pulled over unjustifiably, when I know they pulled me over because I was black, You know what I mean? Or I give you an example. When I first moved out here in Arizona, I was carpooling with the lady that was married. I was married, but the lady happened to be white. But we was carpooling so we could get to work together. Of course, the cop felt some kind of way, pulled me over. The white lady got so mad. Her husband got mad. He could not believe that this cop found a superficial reason to pull us over. But again, if I had acted a fool and reacted before thinking, that situation would have went totally sideways. Instead, I just acted professional like I always do, and I made him feel like boo-boo the fool. You get it?
Yeah, absolutely. See, but here's the thing about it, and I'm gonna say this, like, Sean, I understand last point in regards from an emotional standpoint, things that happen to you many and many a times. The problem that always sticks with me is because me dealing with all these young men, I don't think people understand the cost for making bad decisions. And when I say that is because, or making emotional decisions rather. And a lot of times when I hear and I see these videos on social media where people saying I'll sue or you can sue, I don't think people understand that even when you try to report stuff or sue, you don't necessarily know if that stuff's going to happen. And a lot of times, there's a difference between what's legal and what's right. Just because something isn't right doesn't mean it isn't legal, right? You know, and I think sometimes people get that confused with it because the officer, he's not illegal because he's rude or he has a messed up demeanor, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he's being short, he's being loud, whatever. That's not illegal, but it's wrong and it's bothering you. So when we react to what's wrong, and we might do something that's illegal, but we haven't been, and that is done illegal to us.
Right.
And that's why I always want to catch people. Like sometimes we got to think. Because again, sometimes when you spend a lot of time fighting losing battles, because what we may think can fix it, or what we may think we can be justified, i.e., we can report it or we can sue them, that may not be an option. And the way we respond to certain stuff, it may not work out that way. And that's why I want to really have this conversation, because far too often, the last point, we are, targeted, we are, picked on, we are discriminated. I get that part. But at the end of the day, we don't make it easier for ourselves when we handle it a certain way where we don't have no justification to defend ourselves. When we started to curse, when we started to hit, we started to fight, that would have went to a whole different realm of things. Right? So you already we can say, well, I'm a brother, I'm tired, like beat me up. They stereotype me. I was seeing picked out and stuff like that. That could all be true. But at the end of the day, how I react is everything. Because I think what a lot of times, and unfortunately, we don't have a group of elders. When I say I was listening to looking on the social media posts, we don't have a group of elders, and I'm talking about like just say that age frame where we at 45 to 55 that are having critical thinking conversation with young people. They're having a lot of reactive conversations. With if I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't do that. And unfortunately, even when people know they've made mistakes, they done went down the road for a couple of years, they've done it, they don't still have a conversation like, hey man, this is how you need to handle that situation.
But you do know that when you are emotionally angry, when you're upset or bothered or just generally tired of being picked on, you don't necessarily stop and critically think. You know what I'm saying? You don't necessarily stop and critically think.
Appreciate you calling in, Sean. Get the call drawn.
Yeah, you don't necessarily stop and critically think. You don't, because you're reacting off emotions. So whatever happens at that particular moment because you are upset.
But that's why we're having a conversation tonight, because we're going to teach you how to critically think. How not react.
I think the emotions take over. I think the emotions take over your whole being at that point, because there's and I get what you're saying. You're teaching them, and we need to learn, but bro, you never been through it.
I know that. That's why I had this conversation.
Okay.
So we start saying why this conversation matters. A lot of times systematic pressure. Number one, Black men often face environments that encourage survival or reflection. He touched you, he said this, he got loud. People, openly disrespect you and things like that. We've had conversations about that. Hey, you gonna let them do that? And and I think that's past race, but a lot of times, we've grown up, and again, when I'm talking to Black men, where things you feel like, okay, that person trying to chomp you or punk you, and at the end, they may not necessarily even touch you. But if there's something to make you feel disrespected, and those kind of things push, like I can't have people do that kind of stuff. And then so we talk about those systematic pressures, that one being other being stereotypes. Society often expects emotional reactivity, not intellectual strategy. Thanks for calling Change Your Lives.
It's Jenkins again, man.
What's up, bro?
Got disconnected. It's
okay.
all good.
What I was doing, I was going over a couple things why it's important. Now, the first one I just stated was being the systematic pressures. The second one being stereotypes, and the third one being legacy building. Critical thinking. And if we talk about the importance of having this conversation, legacy building, critical thinking equips Black men to lead families, businesses, and communities with clarity and power. Reacting to survival, thinking of liberation. And I think a lot of times we have to have these conversations because of what Lab just said. A lot of times when things happen to you, you don't think you just move because you feel upset or feel disrespected. But that's why it's so important we have this conversation because, in all honesty, a lot of men, Black men in particular, do not know how to critically think. They don't know reasoning. They don't necessarily know, how to avoid conflict or whatever, right? We can sit here and say, well, do this and do that, but they still don't have to turn the other cheek, tell the teacher, avoid certain stuff, but they still don't have the tools to understand how to do that, right? Because to Larry's point, you be so emotionally charged, and you feel like you gotta respond to everything, right? How many times have you seen men in relationships or even talk to somebody and they feel like they gotta have the last word, and if they didn't get the last word in, they did not win the argument,
right?
And that's the thing. And I've always pushed my kids, listen, if you know what you're doing, why are you talking to this damn fool? Like, why are you going back and forth with this person? But far too often, people want to feel that kind of way. But that's why it's so critical. Again, we have these conversations. So to your point, Larry, people be somewhat equipped with the tools to do that. Again, guys, tonight we're talking about how to think and not react. How to think and not just react. Critical thinking for Black men. We stream live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Twitter. Feel free to leave your comments in the chat. But also feel free to call in 678-740-9894. Again, that's 678-740-9894. We got a guest coming in, one of my classmates, teammates, attorney LaShawn Jenkins out of Jenkins Law Firm. Is it Phoenix, Arizona, Tempe, Arizona?
Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe, all of it, man. Okay. All over Arizona.
Okay. I appreciate you tuning in. And chiming in with us too, brother.
Man.
Sean, you can get your firm number too, Sean. It's a worldwide show, so you feel free to get your number if you want to.
Oh yeah, man, no doubt. 602-283-9868.
There you go, bro.
9868. 602-283-9868, man. Call Jenkins Law Firm. I did want to give you guys a couple of legal points.
Thank you.
Just about some of the misconceptions people have when they are pulled over,
Okay.
And this is just basic things. I know Lab and Pooch, you probably already know this, but I just want to say it for the audience. I mean, number one, everybody knows you have a right to remain silent. You don't have to answer questions, They come up to you like, do you know why I pulled you over? Or, where are you coming from? You don't have to answer. You got a right to remain silent, okay? And that's under the Fifth Amendment in the United States Constitution. Another thing, you got a right to record the encounter if you so choose. Now, again, I personally, if I do it, it's only if I definitely feel like things have been escalated, but I might hit record in terms of voice recording at least, possibly. But most of the times I'm not feeling that threatened. But under the First Amendment, you are allowed to record interactions as long as you don't interfere with the police duties. All right. And that goes for even if you're like a bystander or something else and you see something going on, you see people take out their phones, the First Amendment right, you can start recording, going all the way back to the Rodney King thing when somebody got that on. A lot of people know the Fourth Amendment, and that's the protection from unlawful or unreasonable searches. So, basically police need your consent, or they need a warrant, or they need probable cause to search your car. So you can refuse consent in a search. All right. And you have to say, I do not consent to you searching my car. Now, what does that do? That doesn't mean you're going to be a lawyer on the side of the street. That just means if they violate that right and they go ahead and search your car and they end up getting some contraband or evidence that they attempt to use in the prosecution of you, then if you have a savvy attorney, they're going to say, hold on, he violated the Fourth Amendment right to unreasonable searches. And they're going to throw that evidence out. all right, as fruit of the poisonous tree because it was gotten basically in an illegal manner. Another thing is, unless you're under arrest, you can always ask officer, am I free to just drive away? Am I free to go? You know what I mean? Because they cannot just hold you there. In other words, you can ask them, am I being arrested? Am I being detained? You know, because again, that's a violation of your Fourth Amendment, because if they basically are seizing you, a seizure is basically prohibiting your ability to move and be free as you choose. So they got to make it quick and make it, clear. What are we doing here? And obviously the last thing is you definitely are entitled to a right to an attorney. So, but again, as to your point, Pooch, and Lab may have said this too, you don't want to act like you Matlock or, you know what I mean? You're a criminal defense attorney on the side of the road. You just want to leave that for the court. So, that's my 2 cents, man, just from a law firm standpoint.
I appreciate it. Let me ask you one question with that said, because I know sometimes you have that gray area. Like when the question is asked, do you consent? I don't give you a consent to do it. And to the other part is the probable cause, where he looked drunk. Well, I think I smell weed. Now they didn't smell anything, but they can create their probable cause. What does that gray area go to? Because again, that's just, it seems like that was one of the things where, when you say no, now, well, we're doing other stuff to cause probable cause. It is just something that just can't get around, or just, it is what it is with that.
Well, I will say this. I know what I know because I went to law school. I don't practice criminal defense, but here's what I know, just as an African-American man who needs to know their rights. Okay, they can make up anything they want to, right? But, ultimately, if they didn't have a right to do that, and if you got a good criminal defense attorney and they didn't have a right to search your car in the first place, then they're going to be able to get that evidence thrown out, all right? So they can, a lot of times what the police will say is, oh, okay, you don't want to consent, you want to play that game? All right, well then, we're going to arrest you. But again, if they arrest you and it's a wrongful arrest, because you got to have probable cause to arrest somebody, you know what I mean? So, a lot of times they'll say, okay, well, you say you haven't been smoking, or they should say this. I'm not saying they always do. You say you haven't been drinking. Okay, well, submit to a breathalyzer, submit to this test, get out of the car, do this. If you say, no, I'm not doing any of that, then a lot of times what they are trained to do in most jurisdictions is say, and obviously a police officer can call on and correct me if I'm wrong, but usually what they're trained to do is make a decision at that point. Do I really have probable cause? If I do, then I need to arrest this person, and then they bring you in for testing,
Yeah,
so.
I appreciate that, Sean, because something that sticks with me the whole time you're talking. Not at not any point in time did you say, "Hey, cuss him out."
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Pull off.
Just let the inner Jenkins law firm come to your aid. If you ever get pulled over, let that little bubble pop up on the side of your head. Jenkins law firm would have told me not to curse this dude out. You know what I'm saying?
Well, no, I appreciate that, brother. Well, listen, man, I definitely appreciate you calling in. Man, give your information out one more time for me, brother.
Yes, sir, man. Jenkins Law Firm, 602-283-9868. That's www.thejenkinslawfirm.com. I love you guys, man.
Keep
doing the good work.
Hey, we got a reunion and everything coming up, so hey, give me a buzz, man.
I'll be there, man. I'm planning it. I'm planning to get there. You know that.
I got all the information on the class site, man, so I'll talk with you soon, brother.
All right, man. In the meantime, we ain't cursing nobody out.
Thank you.
All right,
take it easy now.
Thanks.
All right. Man, appreciate that.
Yeah, most definitely.
That was very insightful because, like I said, the whole time, just thinking, and I understand.
Mm-hmm.
God knows I understand what it is to be elevated. Pissed off. You
Right.
And I understand the whole point of, you get thrown off your rocker and stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
Supervisor tripping. You got a situation at home, significant other done cussed you out, kid done, got in trouble. I get that part. But at the end of the day, as hard as it is, sometimes we got to sit here and say to ourselves, hey, listen, pull back. And we're going to talk about that. We start looking at the difference between reacting and thinking. Some quick examples. Reacting, impulsive, emotion first. Thinking, intentional, logic first. You got that?
Right.
Reacting is impulsive and emotions first. Thinking is intentional and logic first. When we start looking at reacting, triggered by an external pressure. Somebody bumped you, somebody said something, somebody did to you. thinking is grounded in your eternal values.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't got time for this. I got stuff to take care of, right?
Right.
We start looking at reacting. May escalate because of a conflict.
Mm.
Y'all got arguing.
Right.
Nothing that happened, you pissed off. And thinking is you aim to resolve or avoid it.
Mm.
That's the thing about it. Look, man, I already know that's going to piss me off. Well, I put myself in that situation.
Mm.
From reacting, you often focus. They got a short-term focus. You're just thinking about what's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at thinking, it's a long-term, big picture view. And that's when we start looking at the difference of the two.
And that picture part, that big picture view gets blacked out when you angry, emotional, tired, and worn out. There is a thing called blacking out. Some people do black out. They have so many pressures on them that, like I said, that last straw, not only does it break, it breaks the camel's back, but it also turns the TV off, and you know what I'm saying? It's just certain external factors, and I understand exactly what you're saying because I try to do all that all the time. Think critical. If I was like, okay, if I do this, I'm not gonna have no job. So I try to think about those things. But there's days, like I'm gonna give you one good example for me. I had went to work, been at work, dealing with work, blah blah blah, in the law firm, doing all that stuff, and then on my way home, tire goes flat. Mm-hmm. So I know it's a spare in the trunk because I'm driving Slick's car. So I know it's a spare truck. I take the spare out. I was like, oh, it looks flat. Take it, have somebody come get me, have Slick's son come get me, put it in the truck, go up there, go to a little tire shop right here on the corner where you get off the expressway. Take it, I say, hey, can you check my tire? Can you check my tire? Well, Slick actually comes to take me up there in her truck. Can you check my tire? I think it seems to be flat or something in it. He rolls it around in the water, pulls it out, nothing wrong. Says that'll be $30. I said, for what? I said, all you did was roll it around in the water.
You ain't doing anything.
You ain't do anything. This a high performance shop. That's $30. So now he elevated, and I'm getting elevated because I'm thinking to myself, you trying to rob me? Like, I'll give you $5 or $10. I'm not going to give you $30 to roll this tire around the water.
Yeah. See,
and this is where having good friends, because we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now, because I'm a registered gun owner, and he just started talking and pointing and coming up to me. I say one more thing I don't like. One more thing. And Slick say, get in this truck. Snatch my gun away from me and get in the truck. And I was just that mad. I was going to shoot him.
And you think about it. Now, how would you explain that? Everybody in jail.
Right.
What you do, man? Guy, you know what I'm saying? He broke in my house. I shot him.
Right.
What you do, man? Drug deal went bad.
Mm.
What you do, man? Man, this dude want me to pay him for looking at my tire.
Right.
Oh. Thank you, Slick. Come on now. But I say that the point I want to get at, that's very, very common.
Mm-hmm.
When something like that happens and people just go from 0 to 100,
mm-hmm.
and you be like, man, did I just do this because of that?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And again, somebody harm you, touch you, do something to your family where you're in defense or protecting something,
mm-hmm.
that's a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody doing that, like, okay, whatever, because at the end of the day, we can be brutally honest with you. But you look in the grand scheme of things, you totally hurt them way worse putting a super negative Google review. Because you're in their pocket.
Right, right.
That's the thing about it. Because more than likely, if he did that to you, he's done it to others.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that the kind of thing, a lot of times we get hurt, but your mind don't be on it because it's personal now.
It is personal. It's personal. You trying to rob me now. Yeah. I feel like you got a gun in my back and you sticking me up. So I feel like I am protecting myself at this point from you trying to rob my pockets.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It don't be that deep a lot of times. It's just a jerk.
Yeah.
And we are level-headed. We got to sit here and say to ourselves, man, I got a family. I got stuff to do. I ain't finna be arguing the fool. Like I always shared that story about them guys at the Dollar General that time.
Mm-hmm.
Man, them dudes, man, they had like, the truck was on the land wheel. He cussed me. I know I'm going to get some money.
Right.
Everyone, I know if something would have happened, I don't know what them guys had on them or whatever, this, that, and that. And if someone had, they said, man, I know Pooch won't argue with nobody in no Dollar General parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
What everybody would have said.
Right.
Guy cussed me out, mother, this, that, and that, and all that kind of stuff. My dumb ass. Hey, bro, like, hey, man, my bad. I told you that. I said it once. Now we go back for it. Sometimes, Pooch, shut up. Shut up, Pooch. You finna get some money.
Right.
And this dude needs some money.
Right. You can pick up a punch.
So, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, leave this alone. Let that be. And that's hard because when you leave situations like that, it bothers you for a minute. It may linger a couple of days. Like, come on, you know, this, that, and that. But you know what? You're able to, you free. You able to have that linger.
Right.
And it's fun. It's a funky feeling.
It is a funky
because you
feeling.
wearing it and somebody punked me and they didn't respect me. We human. You're a man. But at the end of the day, you gotta sit here and say to yourself, like, look, man, is that worth it? Some of the things again tonight we're talking about. I keep forgetting. I got a deep title. I keep forgetting it. How to think, not just react. How to think, not just react. Critical things for Black men. Feel free, guys. Leave your comments in the chat. Want to make sure I ain't missing nothing.
Slick says, I got a couple over here. Slick says, now Lab kept me from shooting my aunt's husband after he hit my aunt. I did. It's like, come on, you don't even want. You better go back to him. You ain't finna get into that. But let's talk about Grego says great topic. So many people experience parents who demonstrated volatile behavior. DNA wiring is real too. Do you think accountability partners can help keep people in check?
As long as people willing to listen. I think accountability partners are great. As long as folks willing to listen.
Right.
If you know, at the end of the day, like if you type person, you know, just hey Pooch, chill out.
Right.
And I'll listen to you. Don't make a difference.
Right.
Accountability partners are great. You know, we're doing it, but it comes down to really how much person gonna listen. You know, just so if you're not gonna be mindful of that person talking to you, or they ain't gonna be mindful of you, it's only gonna go so far. I think it's a great thing as long as, and I know that sounds simple,
right? But
that's just really just the gist of that,
right?
They're gonna listen to you.
Yeah, Black Man Unite said, "Yeah, Pooch, you know how to think critical."
Well, shit. The thing good is, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to sit and say stuff don't bother me or react. Right. But in the grand scheme of things, I know how stuff blow over. Right. I know how BS is. I know how BS and folks will say certain things. You get caught up in the net, and it don't go nowhere. Like I'm serious about when you focused in what you want to do. When you focused in, that other BS to take you away from that. So you getting off your rocker, man, want to respond to this or deal with that and all that because somebody said or somebody ain't believing or whatever. That take away from your energy of what you got to do, right? You understand what I'm saying? I get it. You know, so, and it's hard. It's hard because you are a human. You are a man. We're talking about critical things for Black men. At the end of the day, you still got to sit here and say, well, look, big picture wise, this is what I want to be. And you got your own personal vision. Right. Oh, well, I want DJ Ladd to be. I got my own personal vision what I want Pooch to be, right? Other people don't care. They don't see that and all that kind of stuff. So I'm messing around, you know, listening to this bullshit that they saying and stuff. That's attracting me from that. You know what I'm saying? Most I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. I remember, I'm telling you, Lab, me and my kids be over there in Kmart parking lot. I'm putting them flyers out. You know, we're talking about 02, 03. And shit, man, I get a flyers, folk ball it up, throw the shit. I just gave it to you. Right. You ball my paper up, throw it down. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. That shit, whatever. You know, they saying that, you know, that, right. You know, but I know where I'm trying to be. Right. You know you all the time. Your little tag business, your little YouTube channel, right, your little this, right. Your little that. You know, it's the meaning of that. Your little radio station. Right. Everything. But at the end of the day, I know what I want to be. Right. And you can get so caught into shit other folks saying about your stuff that might be derogatory or just really how they feel about it. It may not even be that negative. They just see your shit as a look. Right. They see what you do as bull. And that's fine. That's your vision. That's fine. That's their vision. But I know where I want to be at, right? And we can't get caught into certain things, right? Defending yourself is one thing. You sitting there responding to stuff that really ain't going to have no way around, especially with people that they ain't going to benefit you at all. You tripping. You tripping. I can't let no hater mess up my money. Right. I can't let no hater or somebody don't care mess up the stuff I'm trying to do, right? You know what I'm saying?
Or
I
they say
can't
trick
just
you off the street.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I think the hardest part for when it comes to black men though is that we don't really like our manhood tested like that. So anything that is not conducive to what we have going on, or we feel somebody's disrespecting us, becomes an issue because we're not supposed to let nobody disrespect us. You get what I'm saying? Like, and I think that a lot of times we have so much pressure on us that we don't take time to think about the consequences of what I'm about to do, or the consequences of what my reaction may be to this current situation. And like you said, we're thinking about right then. I want us to take into the consideration that there's a lot more factors in what we deal with on a daily basis than just saying stopping and breathing for 10 seconds. You get what I'm saying? We might need to stop and breathe for a minute and just step away and then come back to it, because we shuffling through everything that we done been through today. And you know what I'm saying? I pick you. You get what I'm saying? I pick you today. You, since you want to come to me with some BS, tag you it. And that's what generally happens most of the time.
Well, at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, regardless of what you're going through, you're not gonna get a pass before your reaction.
That's true, and that's true. And we don't think about that part.
Well, that doesn't justify it. Because that brother that just ran over that police officer and everybody saying good, bro, he might get the chair. He more than likely gonna spend the rest of his damn life in jail.
Most definitely.
But he might get the damn chair for some fact who he killed.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you still talking about like, who gonna take care of your family?
Mm-hmm.
Now you done sit here and put all this other stuff on there, whatever. So now you got bury one, then you got to sit here and try to get some defense for another one.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to justify it, but like, come on now. I get that. I've never been in that situation. I don't know the pain and hurt of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like I'm not.
And see, this happened after you see the body cam footage. It may not even been nothing on the body cam footage that caused that officer to have to kill that young man.
Let me say something. Now, we'll say this. His father, the granddaddy, said, I didn't see that officer trying to kill my grandson.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I see my grandson scared, and I see that officer scared. He said, I did not see that man. The granddaddy came out at the press conference yesterday and said that.
Mm-hmm.
They got them, they were stealing somebody's car, and the young man had a gun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know the young man pointed it.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, what I always say, do not think people going to do right by you when you're doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, you breaking in somebody's car, police pull up, I told them I surrendered, they shot you.
Mm-hmm.
You breaking in somebody's house, I come out my bedroom, see in my house, you say you got me, I shoot you.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? I had cousin one time, hey, he doing some wrong. He got shot.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to do that. Why was he doing that?
Right.
So you can't really hope folk gonna do right when you doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now you sitting out minding your business, ain't did that. That's a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You seen it like you said with the young man Tyree Nichols and stuff like that, and we're doing it. And let me stress in case you hope that don't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it happened far too often to us. But again, that's the whole point. When, we have a relationship with police and stuff like that. So we understand the heightened part of relationships, but you're gonna have more of those instances with Carlos, Twan,
mm-hmm.
Joe, and Bobby.
Mm-hmm.
More than you had them with the police, where you got to do critical thinking,
mm-hmm.
right? You're going to have them instances, because that do happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I ain't no damn fool to sit here and say, well, hey, you don't get profiled and nothing like that. But you had them interactions with people, regular
mm-hmm.
folks, more than you had them with the police.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had these conversations. I want to be slanted to that, because at the end of the day, because these are stuff you have with the guys on the street, your job,
mm-hmm.
your family, and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I want to have that. So we start looking at things, those barriers to critical thinking among black men. Usually what we just said for cultural conditioning. Well, a lot of times people tell you to man up, don't let nobody punk you,
mm-hmm.
and you're not taught to pause and reflect.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing being educational gap. Schools often prioritize obedience over inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me then, just do what I tell you to do, especially underserved communities. So, like I was bringing up earlier, a lot of people just not taught the critical thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just do.
Right.
I've been in my kids' programs at school, and you go in and say, hey, ma'am, what we said? Go over there.
Right.
Who the fuck?
Right.
Fuck you.
Right.
The fuck you, I said go over there, sir.
Right.
Hey, man, you. And again, I'm not saying this all educators, But you know how your mind is just like you just all day long giving out orders. You think that's the kind of stuff that's going to work and everything. So again, it just do, and no think.
Don't question.
Exactly. You have,
and that's at home too.
Absolutely. So, and that's why people wonder so much. Man, my son, like he don't know what to do or whatever because you told him what to do so often when you raised them and never taught them how to think. And you think some magical dust gonna come out of their head at 18, and then they're gonna start thinking and making decisions, and they've never been taught how to look at different options and make a decision from there. You know what I'm saying?
When I was in my when I got my degree in psychology, we did a study on if you constantly tell a person something over and over and over and over again. I think you've heard these studies before that they start thinking that's how everyone is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm telling you, be tough, strike first. You're gonna think that somebody telling me that. So your reaction is to react before I react. You get what I'm saying? It's always is thinking that everybody is the same. We're all taught the same things, and that's just not the case. You get what I'm saying? That's just not the case. But we think like that because we've been taught. That's a repetitive thing that's in our head all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So we think like, okay, I know my mama taught me to strike first. So I know Poochie mama taught him to strike first, and Poochie mama might not even taught him that. Yeah. But that's how I'm doing. That's why a lot of times you get a reaction before you even have an action. You get what I'm saying? Because I'm preparing myself for what you're about to do, and I'm trying to counter that, and you might not even be doing anything.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you got a lot of cats that shit don't really get taught to them. They start implementing until they get grown.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many men out here don't know how to be respectful, be a gentleman,
right?
Or just be,
be.
Hey man, just speak to folks. Hey, respect.
Mm.
That's your shit. That's his stuff and everything. Just don't, you have to go through something to kind of get that stuck in them,
right?
And unfortunately, a lot of folks don't value it until certain things get taken away from them, and they have to do that, right? Mm-hmm. And that's unfortunate. And again, we talk about a couple of barriers to critical thinking among Black men. 2 more: survival, trauma and survival mode, past hurt, past hurt and chronic stress limit the space for analysis and reflection. You never know what, like you said, you sit there and a person that got loud with somebody, they don't know if they've had a childhood of verbal abuse or whatever, or they hear certain noises. You'll never know what can trigger, especially like PTSD.
Right.
I ain't talking about from a war situation. It could be from abuse or whatever. Right. So you never know those triggers. And then second one, a point that you brought up earlier, that being peer pressure. Mm-hmm. Environments that reward aggression and quick dominance instead of just strategic thought.
Yeah, most definitely.
Those are kind of things about it. And you have to be very, very careful with your peer group.
Right. And I think in our society, when we're being raised as Black men, that right there is a staple in our community.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of us, and I'm talking about us that grew up in the 80s and 90s, we were the man of the house. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times we didn't have a parental person because my mom was doing her thing. So I had, I'm doing my thing. So I didn't have a necessarily parental person telling me, no, don't do that, or you need to think before you act, or I'm doing what I want to do. And that was a lot of us that grew up in that era.
Yeah, and I do think a key thing being exposure. Mm-hmm. A lot of times you around crazy shit and you think crazy shit is normal.
Right.
And you start seeing certain things. Unfortunately, when you do have exposure, when the onus is on you, got to make them decisions what you're gonna deal with or not.
And that whole thing diminishes the critical thinking part because you just think it's normal. When you think it's normal, you don't think critically about it because think about this. When you used to be around in a neighborhood where it's a lot of shooting going on or whatever, a lot of times you don't even duck. You hear guns going off, you go, that's Reggie them down the street on 128th Street. They doing what they do everywhere tonight. You get what I'm saying? Like,
well, let me say this. The only pushback I have on that is, a lot of times you see crazy stuff like that, it can normalize it.
Mm-hmm.
But even with limited exposure, i.e. school, you see some shape, form of structure.
Right.
And from that point, like you can sit here and say, okay, look, I see, Miss such this, that, they got rules and all that kind of stuff. So you have some kind of thing, and you can make a decision. And you might see certain things like, okay, that's how that's going on. but I don't necessarily know if it's you totally clueless about right and wrong. If you
No,
don't got
I
public
didn't say you know about right and
Yeah.
wrong. I'm just saying you're so used to that being a part. Right and wrong is instilled in us at birth. I think we know right and wrong. We've talked about this on many shows before. You know the difference between right and wrong. That you're just.
But what I'm saying, when we start talking about as far as decision making, certain things like that, I do think a lot of folks have had exposure to it. Now, from a maturity standpoint, you got like some 5-year-olds. He hit me, I hit him back. Right? They young, they don't understand. So from a maturity standpoint, you don't expect to have them same kind of conversation. And when I say hit, it may be somebody make a post about you on social media, and I see grown men now want to make this is my response video. They said this, and I said this,
right?
And it be influential people,
right?
And you think, man, what the fuck I care about what you said about me,
right?
Like I said, I'm going through that right now with my clarity on you, man. What the fuck?
Right?
I ain't did it,
right?
So why I'm gonna do that,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Well, that person said something about you, Poochie, and you know what I'm saying? Hey, I live by this. I don't sit here and tell folks to do that. You know what I mean? And I think when you start putting maturity on that, people feel like they gotta respond. You ain't got to.
And again, I think most of those responses are emotional. There's an emotional response. It's all because when they say something about you on social media, you feel like it's necessary for me to say something back. And a lot of times, like you said,
why?
I'm about to say, a lot of times it don't even need to be necessary.
Yeah,
it's not necessary because a lot of people don't realize that silence is a response.
Well, I'm being brutal honest. I think that's why I feel like somebody nutting up right now.
Right, silence
because I ain't saying that.
When you don't say nothing, it makes them worry more because now they're like, why you ain't saying nothing? Don't need to. It's not that important to me.
Absolutely.
One more comment. Let's Talk American Radio says, sincerely, when you realize so many people have internal emotional battles, you have no choice but to give grace. Behavior is a result of your state of mind. You can't allow others to alter we can't allow others to alter our moods.
You can give grace to people, but at the end of the day, that's how you react to them. We're talking about what they doing. So at the end of the day, you can't hope people gonna give grace to you because you're doing wrong.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's one thing how you can see and say, well, look, I understand. They stressed out, they got stuff going. I get that part. But we talk about you doing it. You can't expect everybody gonna give your ass some grace or understand, hey man, I got a lot going on. My mama's sick, I lost my job and all that shit. So I just cussed everybody out.
Right.
I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? That's just you might have them kind of that leniency with your friend, family, somebody you close with, you got some kind of colleague or something. But you can't expect people just to be understanding. People don't give a damn.
If they don't care.
They don't give a damn.
Slick said it's hard not to respond when you talk out your name.
I'll say that, but at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, I think what you do, you keep total power yourself. As long as you can do that, and it's nothing wrong with being upset. But I'm a firm believer in keeping control of yourself. Now listen,
control
guys,
your controllables.
That's it. Control your controllables. Now the night show, guys. We talk about how to think, not just react. Critical thinking for Black men, and we done talk. So what I'm going to give right now, we're going to say different factors that cause it, different things that are. But right, I'm going to give you right now is some tools to build critical thinking skill. You need some tools to build critical thinking skill. Okay. And the first one is, number one, ask better questions. What you mean by ask better questions? Not why this happened to me, but what's really going on here. You know what I'm saying? Like, police done pulled me over, you know what I'm saying? Or why this happened, more so like, what's going on? Like, okay, I see this day, you being a jerk, let's just get through this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what's happening to pull up, I'm getting pulled over because I can see, like I mentioned before, wrong is the person being a jerk, might be cussing this, that, and that, but it ain't necessarily illegal. Right. So me back and forth, that motherfucker, now I'm sitting here cussing this. Now I'm illegal. Right. Because I done made this public disturbance, da. But they're rude with me. Right. It's not legal to be rude. It's illegal for me to do this disturbance, right? It's crazy that sound, but that's the truth, right? Right. So we got to sit here and say, well, look, this is what's going on. They messing with me. They being buttholes, but I need to get through this. We got to ask them questions. What's really going on here, right? You got to just dig deeper to find a root cause of your response to your situation. So we got to ask them kind of questions. I said, like, look, man, what's this situation right here?
Right.
She flipping the hell out of us. She mad, this, that, and that. I don't need to get into. I know what a person upset about.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't got to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to say we doing critical thinking, right? We got to use this mind. We got to use this mind because when we don't use our mind and we try to sit here and say, well, I have sense. I do certain things, but we show something totally different. It's hard to justify that.
Mm.
It's hard to say I ain't crazy.
Right.
I'm sitting there, right.
Well,
they saying something to me. But I'm arguing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we got to sit here and just use it, y'all. That's the most important muscle in your body. You got to use it.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is practice the pause. Like Lab said, train yourself to pause 5 to 10 seconds before reacting, especially in emotionally charged moments. Lab just said 15 seconds to a minute.
And depending on the charge of the emotion.
You
might even have to just not say nothing and walk away.
Well, my thing is, avoid the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
I know I have somewhat of a temper, and I've had that majority of my life. When I see those triggers, let me leave it alone. You getting loud with me, you fussing, this, that, and that, and all that kind of stuff. Let me get off the phone.
Right.
Let me leave. Hey, look, this ain't going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Especially you sitting there talking, whatever, this person, you talking, they ain't listening, whatever. Because see, sometimes, and it's the truth, man, I go through this stuff all the time. If I know Lab's not going to see, it's not, and this is where people lose me with stuff. I will talk and negotiate with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But if I know Lab is not interested in talking and conversing, and I'm talking about you want to get your point out and you want to win. If you want to get your point out and you want to have your thing worked out, there's no reason for us to talk because you're not going to listen to me anyway. I don't need to be talking to be talking.
Mm-hmm.
But if Lab wants to have a conversation, okay, cool. And that's why when you see the heads of countries meet, you see President Trump meet with other prime ministers, whatever, those men got to talk because they understand our disagreements can lead to lives lost.
Mm-hmm.
That's what men do. Men sit there and talk.
Right.
That's the thing about it. Boys gonna fight and kill.
Mm-hmm.
And your age ain't got nothing to do if you're a boy or a man.
Right.
But men gonna sit there, hey, bro, let's talk. Let's get this out.
Mm-hmm.
And you in any form, you can see this in just your neighborhoods. You see this in politics. You can see it in prison. When we say the leaders, let's talk. Let's get this out. Because if we don't talk and we don't get this shit together,
we gonna have problems.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So let's talk. But when you see boys, they gonna react. They with you crashing out and all this other kind of stuff. You gotta understand those actual things. They actually can cause those triggers. But if you see that, look, that person not, and again, I get accused of that. I call Poochie, you ain't listening, that. No, I'm listening. That person doesn't want. They want it that way, right? And I say that because that person said something to me.
Right.
The person want to go in a certain direction. There's nothing they don't. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, unless that person says, "Hey, listen, I'm willing to work on this." Cool, we can talk now.
Right.
Not my way, not your way. The way we agree on.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know a person does not want to talk,
what's the
when
point?
I say converse, I'm not talking. I just talk to you one way communication. You just talk to me. We talk with each other. We're trying to find a common ground.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I don't think people. Everybody don't want to do that. I don't think a lot. I'm just saying. I do negotiations all the time, and I think people think, well, won't y'all? Everybody cannot work stuff out. You gotta be okay with that sometimes.
Yeah, just gotta let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I don't mean they're gonna stay that way, but it just sometimes it don't work that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you just gotta be real with it. You know, and I think a lot of times, depending on your exposure when negotiating, that's it's sometimes hard for people to accept. Well, the person they feel that way and they strongly about it, and
ain't nothing you can do to change it.
Ain't nothing you do to change it.
Nothing.
And that's the thing about it. And you can sit there and be hours or days or months still trying to hammer something that you feel like, okay, let's work with this. And
they done moved on.
Yeah, they done moved on.
They ain't even worried about it.
You still on your shit trying to do that. And that's not how certain things work out. Another thing is challenge the thought first. The first thought may be conditioned by your ego or trauma. Let me cuss this mug out. Let me slap it, whatever. Let me just do this. Let me go hit this. I'm gonna go call. I'm gonna go post. I'm gonna whatever. You got to ask: is this response based off truth fear, or emotion?
Mm.
Is this response I'm finna give based off truth, fear, or emotion? Guys, we're trying to give y'all some tools to help y'all start critically thinking.
Mm.
When you see something you want to react, ask that question.
Mm.
I heard, they said.
Mm. Who they? Who is they?
Did you see the look? It sound like your tone.
Is they trying to play me?
Yeah. Is it based off truth, fear, or emotion?
Right.
And when you sitting there trying to look at it like, man, you know what? I really don't know. But that was somebody said that what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, like I go through this stuff all the time. And you would think as people get older, that don't be the case. But I'm a firm believer in, man, exposure and growth got a lot to do with things more than just your age.
That's true.
Because you got some, 40, 50, 60-year-old imbeciles.
They're still active.
They level of exposure has never changed. Yeah, minimal. And you can't expect too much stuff out of them.
Sometimes you have to get out the neighborhood to see that everybody ain't the same in other neighborhoods. You get what I'm saying? You gotta stretch your legs a little bit to realize that, okay, well, maybe I don't need to be on 10 all day.
What's the thing that is, and we can say that, but everything's based on decision making. What you decide to do with yourself or whatever. So you even when we have these conversations, the question asked earlier, about the accountability partners and everything. Shit, you got to be willing.
That's true.
I got to be willing. Sexy Redbone says, so true, ego for sure. And that stuff, it really can harm you. It really can harm you. And again, we're talking about tools that build critical thinking. Let's get other perspectives. Man, this is very key. Talk to mentors, elders, or brothers who see the world differently. It's not for being one of my partners that I trust their opinion or whatever. Not to agree with me or whatever. Hey, man, let me run somebody. Bro, let me talk to you, man. Hey, and it be any friend, regardless of gender. Might be one of my OGs, depending on what it is. Business related, family related. It can be spouse related or whatever help. Hey, bro, let me run somebody. Man, what you think about it? It need to be somebody you trust, somebody to go, going to give you a true, objective, whatever. I know who to go to for certain things.
Right.
When I was going through my divorce, my mother was not going to give me an unbiased opinion.
Right.
Because I'm her baby.
Right.
Now, that don't mean everybody's mama ain't going to be like that.
Right.
But I just knew that I was not going to get an unbiased opinion from my mother.
Right. It's going to be some bias.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Hell no, don't do this. Oh, shit, no, don't. Hell no, don't you
and you would expect that from your mom. Yeah.
So, why the conversation I might have with my mama let me just vent. But I don't need to have like decision making or negotiating conversation with my mother because she's not going to get an unbiased opinion. I might talk to another person. So we start thinking about certain things. Hey, man, before I flip out, I got to sit here. Let me find some people that are not going to tell me, hey, beat her ass. Man, go cuss them folks out of job and quit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You got to be realistic about that, about what conversation or what the issue is and who the person. Because the conversation I have with Lab about a certain thing may not be the same thing I have with him another thing. I might talk to Lab about business. I might talk, but I don't talk to him about relationships.
Right.
I might talk to another person about relationship, but I don't talk to that person about health issues.
Right.
Right. You got to be honest with yourself with that. We're talking about critical thinking because at the end of the day, like right now, I'm just be honest with you. I got one of my sons, two of my sons graduate next week. Right. PJ graduated from college. Will graduated from middle school. My nephew graduated a week from high school. Right. I'm a very big believer in getting good advice from credible people
with a capital K.
Shit,
I'm just messing.
Absolutely. And so when people give advice about career and life and stuff like that, I'm being funny like, hey man, what what they know?
Right.
Now if you sit here and say, well, okay, that person been in the industry years, that's a good mentor. But that's a person to sit here and done certain things or whatever along the lines what you're asking for, great person to talk to. A person just says something to you because they just think that way, but they never know whatever. You gotta be very, and that doesn't mean that person
doesn't have good advice, right?
And they might have good advice about something else,
right?
But that particular thing, you don't need to go to, and you gotta be very, very careful with who you share certain things with, i.e., your future, i.e., your dreams, i.e., anything.
because people can post salt on all that stuff.
Yeah.
You can't go to ask somebody how to fry chicken that's never done it.
I remember my ex-father-in-law. In that time, we ain't I don't fuck with him now, but that time we were cool.
Mm.
But one thing he used to always do every time I said, "Man, I'm gonna start a tag business, so I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that." It was always, "Man, I know some people do that, and that don't do this, that don't do that." And I don't think he was hating on me. He just was a negative ass person.
Right.
But it other folks stuff, right? But
Mhm.
me and him were cool back there. So I never, just being objective.
Mhm.
I just think he was just a negative person, piss on certain things. What always stuck with me is that he would say that, not that I had a problem, I need somebody to tell me yes, but he could never tell me why he felt that way. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
If he just say, "Hey man, it's X amount of these and so many of those, you can't, you gotta have this kind of stuff set up. 2 or 3 times out of the year they're gonna charge you for this, that, and that." He has some kind of intel, something to think about, and I'm gonna put that in my processor and say, that's a good point, but that's not be applicable to me. Or like, damn, I'm glad he told me that. That's why I didn't get started with it. But it was never that. It was just how he felt. Make sense?
I get what you're saying.
You gotta be very, very careful.
He didn't know for sure. He just wanted. That's just how he felt.
Shit, it's just how he felt. Exactly. And you have to be very, very careful because a lot of times those people, like I said, me and my father-in-law got along at that time. He was very influential to me. And if I wasn't the type of person that used critical thinking, I would have followed a lot of stuff he said. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, some people close to me have, and that's why your ass stuck in the mud. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Real talk, man. And again, we're talking. I'm going to go over these in a second. And another thing for us tools in regards to build critical thinking skills: reflective journaling. Write about decisions you made and why, and help you see patterns over time. That might be off experience, that might be occurrences, that might be certain time from a financial standpoint or whatever. Just doing that. And prompts. What did I learn for this? You think about, what did I learn for this? How could I handle it better? How can I handle it better next time? When you're writing stuff down, you can do that reflection. Remember,
right.
I'm a big proponent of journaling, recording, writing, and stuff like that.
We're gonna stop on the journaling, and I'm gonna throw a little the journaling. I'm telling you, black men, journaling is a big thing.
Yeah.
You guys really need to just try it. Get a small book and try. I got probably 30 journal books. It's nothing. I journal today. It's nothing like just writing it down, seeing what you can do to maybe, but writing it down and getting it off your chest. You don't necessarily always have to talk to somebody. You could talk to your journal and write like you writing a letter to somebody in your journal. And that's what I generally do. But it's nothing like just getting out your chest. Sometimes you just get it out your chest and get it down on paper and read it. It becomes, man, it ain't that big of a deal. You know what I'm saying?
You know the thing about it, Lamb? The painful part about it, people forget, but paper always gonna remember.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's always gonna remember. And when you got it wrote down and stuff like that, you can just put in your mind. Man, it ain't happen, whatever. But when I wrote that down, that's gonna be there forever.
Right.
And you have to be at a certain spot where you're okay with being accountable for certain things. And people got to do that. And I think that's a great thing to do. Again, guys, went over those 5 tools to help with critical thinking skills. Number 1, ask better questions. 2, practice the pause. 3, challenge the first thought. 4, get other perspectives. And 5, reflect through journaling, guys. And so a couple things, man, before we close out, like some real world application. We start talking about using critical thinking from relationships. You don't have to respond to disrespect with disrespect. Just respond with boundaries and real wisdom. I ain't got to go back and forth with you, but I ain't going with you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I say, man, I apply this stuff to me every day. I ain't got to go back and forth. I just ain't going to deal with you. You know what I'm saying? History show you certain things about what things like you got to make a decision of what you're going to deal with or not. From a business perspective, you think about offers, investments, and partnerships. You start thinking long-term, big picture. Well, what's the ROI of doing this? People call my time, Poochie, hey, I got a business idea. I got this, that, and that. You don't have a business idea. You have a way you want me to give you money. Like, it's not going to benefit me.
Right.
Like, what's the benefit?
What's my rate of return?
So many times I get asked for money for a business deal to help support somebody, and they'll tell me, but what everybody always miss, I'm telling you, what the hell you going to give me?
Right. What's my return?
Yeah, I see what you're going to make. Hey, the show, but what am I going to make?
Right.
If I'm fronting the money, and I'm doing this, hey, man, I'm assuming all the risk.
Right.
Hey,
I need 10x.
Shit.
I need 10x.
And I don't think people think about that. So you got to be looking at that. Parenting, teach your children to question the world with purpose and not rebellion. Mm-hmm. That's the thing about it. You know, you bounce your head, we're going to crash out. Don't let nobody do this. Don't let nobody do that. But then when you talk to your child through the glass, when you're talking to them through the glass, and you can't even afford to get them out the damn glass, because they so stuck on what you done damn taught them.
Right.
Now you try to sit here and say, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. You don't want to put that shit in there like that. I've never told my kids let nobody punk them. But at the end of the day, look, man, we ain't getting called down, no BS, arguing with somebody. Look, man, they never look like somebody above or beneath you.
Right.
But bro, what you gonna get out of that? That fool gonna feel that way regardless, man. Right. You know what I'm saying? Lose the battle, win the war. You know what I'm saying? That's how I got
comments over here. Mm-hmm. Stanley Gordon says, I agree.
What's up, cuz?
I'm not sure what he meant. Which one we were talking about. I apologize. Get to y'all comments late. Mikhail Pitchford said it's called respect. You respected him. What's up, Coach? Keep dropping jewels, sir.
What's happening, Coach? Appreciate it. You know, I think far too often black men don't have a conversation like this until some shit done happen.
Until it's too late.
Yeah, in regards to not just each other, but just young man did this, young man did that. Now, again, it's just coincidental with the brother. Was it Rodney Hinton Jr., Rodney Hudson Jr.? Just doing that. And like I said, what stuck with me, the amount of men, good father, good job. I wish he did it. But when I asked that question, who's going to take his family while he's in jail? Who's going to take care of his kids? I have not had one, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like that never ran across stuff. You got to think before you react with a lot of stuff. I never get in a conversation to tell nobody, let somebody punk your ass, let somebody do you wrong, let somebody mistreat you or your family. I never get in that conversation.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you, man, look, you got to think before you do certain stuff. If you know somebody going to act crazy, don't put yourself in a situation where if they say something to me, I'm telling you, if I go over there and your uncle going to say something to me, I'm going to slap the shit out of his ass.
Don't go over there.
Now, Unc is going to say something to you.
He always do.
Yeah, he always do consistently. Why put yourself in that situation?
Right.
Why put yourself in that situation? You get what I'm saying? Like,
I get it.
Why?
Now that you put it that way.
Why? I know that's going to happen.
Right.
History has shown me. The first time he caught me off guard.
Right.
The second time I was hoping he got better.
Right.
There's no third time.
No, yeah.
Right?
If I know the situation, if I've done it twice and the situation hasn't changed, why am I going to do it third time?
When you got your life on this kind of trajectory, you're trying to do things for yourself or whatever, never put yourself in a situation anytime that a person can put you outside of that by their behavior, by their decision making, whatever. I know that person gonna get to fight with somebody at the club or whatever. I ain't going to club with him, man. That my partner. I know him. He gonna get drunk and fight, and just because he down, now I gotta fight with him.
Right.
I'm not gonna. No, dog. Club full of women, man. Why are you getting drunk and want to fight everybody?
Right.
But at the end of the day, you put me in that kind of position.
Right.
If I know you're gonna see you doing it, you did it. That's my learning time.
Right.
It can't be no more. Cause I know that's what he do.
I can't go out with you no more.
You get what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
You with somebody, you in public, they're gonna be loud and cussing and certain things like that. You got a certain position in the community. That my friend, I love him, but bro, I can't be no places with you like that,
right?
Because you gonna
putting on, you be putting on all the time.
Exactly. I mess with you,
right?
I just can't mess with you there,
right?
And that what maturity teach you. That don't mean you ain't my partner, but we're gonna be partner here at my house. Cause when I try to take you somewhere, you telling me I'm tripping, I'm doing this, that, and that, you cussing. But you know what? You know what I do for a living. You know where I'm at.
Slick, I got one of them cousins.
You love them.
Right.
But you got to love them in a certain way. You ain't going to sit here and just say, I ain't going to deal with you, whatever.
Right.
But you can't have a certain place. You can have friends who like, okay, look, that's my partner. I don't care where I'm at. If I'm at the family cookout, the club, or the black tie gala, they know how to act. Right. That's not a right or wrong thing. They just maybe a gift that they have, right? Right. But the thing of it is that you got to be able to be smart with yourself to be able to think like, look, why would I put myself? That's my friend. I know they ain't gonna be comfortable. Why would I put them in that position? Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. I know that person did something wrong in the lab before. I'm not finna have that joker around. Like, hey man, that shit was a while ago, man.
Right.
I know, but no. I'm thinking like no.
Right.
And another person will need to do that. If you know that something like that can happen to you, don't put yourself in that situation.
Right.
Like you know that person, hey man, look, I don't like him. Why go around?
Right. Why even worry? Why even try?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So man, I hope the conversation is great. You know, energy has been great. I appreciate everybody with the comments. Appreciate my brother Sean Jenkins, man. Calling in, even giving us the legal insight. So that was pretty good as well. But man, thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I'm still clearing everything out for tax season because my thought process to do more live feeds during the week. But your boy been a little busy. So again, I thank you so much for the love and support, man. We right chugging along. Remember this month, we're gonna try to get 90,000 subscribers for Mr. Short Dollar. And we're trying to get 30,000 for a change of lives. Right? We're right on the tick of doing it. So we got to keep putting in work. Make sure y'all sharing the information. Make sure y'all going back and looking at all the other stuff we put out before. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for the love and support. Take care, y'all, and I'll talk with you soon.